That risk tolerance questionnaire you filled out 10 years ago? The one where you circled moderate or moderately aggressive? It might be lying to you right now. Not because you filled it out wrong, but because the question it was asking, how do you feel about risk, stops being the right question the day you retire. I'm going to show you why the math around risk changes the moment your paycheck stops and your withdrawals start, and why so many retirees are walking into retirement with the exact same portfolio they had at 45 without anyone ever telling them that portfolio now has a different job to do. Let's get into it. Here's what a typical risk tolerance questionnaire actually measures. It asks things like, if your portfolio dropped 20% in a year, would you sell, hold, or buy more? It's measuring your comfort level with volatility, your gut reaction to loss, your personality basically. And that's a useful question when you're 45 and still working, because at 45, a bad year in the market is just that, a bad year. You've got time, you've got a paycheck still coming in, and time smooths out almost everything. But here's the problem. Most people take that same questionnaire, or one just like it, every few years throughout their working life, get the same moderate growth label, and nobody ever stops to ask whether that label still makes sense once the paychecks stop. Let me tell you about David. David is a lot like a lot of clients I've worked with. A mechanical engineer, retired at 66. Every 3 years, like clockwork, his advisor had him retake the same risk questionnaire. Same answers, more or less, same moderate growth portfolio for over 2 decades. Nobody ever explained to David that the math behind the portfolio changes the day you retire. Not because David's personality changed, because his situation did. So let's slow down and separate three things that most people, and honestly a lot of advisors, lump together as one idea. Number one, risk tolerance. This is emotional. It's how you feel about volatility. Does a market drop keep you up at night, or does it not bother you at all? Number two, risk capacity. This is financial, not emotional. It's your actual ability to absorb a loss without derailing your plan. Not how you feel about it, what you can survive. Number three, risk need. This is the amount of risk you actually have to take to reach your goals. Sometimes people take on way more risk than they need to, simply out of habit. Here's the key insight I want you to walk away with. During your working years, these three things can drift apart from each other. And it usually doesn't matter much. Why? Because time fixes mistakes. If your capacity was lower than your tolerance, you had years of paychecks and time to recover. But in retirement, these three things collide. Your risk tolerance might not have changed at all. You might still feel just as comfortable with market swings as you did at 45. But your risk capacity has changed dramatically, because now you're spending from the same pool of money that has to weather the downturns. That's the pivot point. That's the hinge the whole video is about. There's a concept in retirement planning called sequence of returns risk. If you haven't seen my full video on that topic, I'll link it at the end. But here's the short version, because it's central to understanding this. A 20% market when you're 45 and still working is a math event. Painful, sure, but it's a number on a screen that has years to recover. That same 20% drop at 66 while you're withdrawing income from your portfolio can become a permanent impairment to your plan. Not because the drop itself is different, but because you're now pulling money out while the account is down, which locks in losses that a still working 45-year-old never has to lock in. Here's a simple way to picture it. Imagine two people. I'll call them Linda and Sandra. Same starting balance, same moderate risk score, same average rate of return over 10 years. The only difference? Linda retired 2 years before a market downturn. Sandra retired 2 years after it. Same average return, wildly different outcomes, because it's not just what the returns are, it's when they happen relative to when you start withdrawing. That's why the day you retire matters so much. It's the day your money's job changes from growing to growing and paying you. And most people never update their risk approach to match the new job. So, if the math is this clear, why doesn't everyone just adjust their risk the moment they retire? A few reasons. First, loss aversion works against people here in a strange way. They're not afraid of losing money exactly. They're afraid of missing out on growth. What if the market has a great year and I move to something more conservative right before it happened? That fear keeps people frozen in place. Second, advisor inertia. A lot of advisors set an allocation, and unless the client asks, that allocation doesn't get revisited in any meaningful way at their retirement transition. It's not malicious, it's just nobody flagged the moment as different. And third, the illusion of control. I've done fine so far, so I must be doing this right. But doing fine during accumulation and doing fine during distribution are two completely different tests. Now, I want to be clear about something because this is where people sometimes misunderstand what I'm saying. This isn't about becoming ultra conservative the day you retire. It's not sell everything and hide in cash. That's its own mistake. This is about matching risk to the job the money has to do. Some of your money's job is growth. Some of your money's job is guaranteed income you can count on no matter what the market does. Those two jobs need different tools, and that's really the heart of good retirement planning. So what does this actually look like in practice? Instead of asking, am I moderate or aggressive, a better retirement question is, what is each dollar's job? You can think about your money in a few different buckets. Income floor money. This covers your essential, non-negotiable expenses. Housing, food, insurance, the basics. The money's job is certainty, not growth. This is where guarantees matter most. Growth money. This is money you don't need for years, maybe decades. This portion can still tolerate volatility because it's not the money paying your electric bill next month. Flexibility money. Money set aside for the unexpected. Access, liquidity, options. This is where a tool like a fixed index annuity or FIA can play a role. Not because it's safer in some abstract sense, but because it can remove market risk from the specific portion of your portfolio that's assigned to your guaranteed income floor. And when that piece is handled, it actually changes the risk equation for your entire plan, because your growth money is now free to actually act like growth money without you needing it to also behave like safety money. I want to be upfront, an FIA isn't a silver bullet and is not right for every dollar or every person. Guarantees are backed by the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance carrier, not by the government or by market performance. It's one tool among several that gets evaluated based on your specific numbers, not a blanket answer. Let's bring this together with three things I want you to remember. 1. Risk tolerance questionnaires measure your feelings. They don't measure your financial reality. 2. Your capacity for risk changes mechanically the day your income starts, whether or not your feelings about risk have changed at all. 3. The fix isn't necessarily get more conservative. The fix is re-segmenting your money by the job each piece needs to do. Here's the thing. The danger was never taking risk. Risk, used correctly, is part of a healthy retirement plan. The danger is taking the exact same risk you took at 45 on autopilot without ever stopping to ask whether it still fits the job your money has now. If you want to learn more, check out the free booklet called Retire Smart. It's linked on the page in the description box. If this video helped you see risk a little differently, hit subscribe. I break down topics like sequence of returns risk, Social Security claiming strategy, and Medicare planning every week. This is Retirement Security Simplified, where we specialize in turning confusion into confidence, one conversation at a time.